Hello, everyone. My name's Nadim, head of marketing at Digital Surge, and we have a very, very special guest today. He is the man, the myth, the legend, the co-founder, one of the key foundation pieces of Digital Surge. He is the one that makes things move. He is the one that makes everything happen at Digital Surge. He's the reason why we have 300 plus coins. He's the reason why we have earned. He's the reason why you are watching this live stream, Joshua Lehman.
Thanks, Nadim, for that big intro.
Good. I had to ask you, Josh, before we get started, how does it feel being the owner of a company and coming up with a competition for your staff and actually winning the competition? Might I add that there was a prize money for grabs for first place and you ended up winning?
What do I say? It was, I put the gauntlet out there. So for some context for everyone that's listening, we ran a fitness competition for the last 12 weeks. The person that lost the most body fat percentage as a total percentage won $1,000. And everyone talked a big game, but they just couldn't live up to my standard.
They couldn't, and I think it's awesome that the one who's running the company who comes up with the competition to bet $1,000 of his own money is the one who wins his own money. Great, love it. Not every company or exchange out there has such a competitive business owner. So today, for those, just to give a kind of cap, to get to know you, Josh, your backstory, your origin story, your X-Men origin story. You got some superpowers that people are unaware of. I want to get right into it, and I want to know, what were you doing before you heard about Bitcoin and the transition of actually, let's just start there. What were you doing before crypto, before Bitcoin?
Sure. So previously, before crypto and Digital Surge, I worked in IT. Mm-hmm. So I was in a management position, managing and leading a team of engineers, building complex IT systems. I also certified as a pen tester.
And what's that? Pen tester?
Yeah, so basically getting paid to break into computer system networks.
Nice.
So I was building, designing computer system networks, also consulting, breaking into them and getting paid for it.
So you were basically getting paid to be a hacker?
Pretty much, yeah. So
a legal hacker.
Yes, a legal hacker. So that's obviously given me a really good foundation for understanding security, and it's been a passion of mine. And just building things has always been a passion of mine. So I first heard about Bitcoin in...
Sorry, just on that, like when you say it was a passion... Like for how long? Like
since I was a little kid. I remember when I was in primary school, we had our first computer when I was in year 4, in just one little computer in the back of the class. And
in year 4?
Yeah.
Cheers.
And I gravitated towards it, getting into the back of the system, playing around with it. And, unfortunately, I ended up breaking the computer. But I guess my curiosity, that's kind of where my curiosity started, just really from an early age. And I gravitated towards IT and really excelled at it.
Was there anything in particular that gravitated you to kind of the hacking side of security and that type of things?
I think it comes down to a lot of my curiosity. So it's more around, I see it as like an intellectual puzzle. Like how do you get to the next step? So for me, it's a combination of, the passion for IT, computer systems, and then the cybersecurity is, I guess, both ways. Like how can I, it's kind of like a bit of a game, right? How can you build a strong defense so someone can't get in? Yeah. And in the reverse, what would be the steps that you need to take to actually try and get into the system. So, I throughout high school, actually, IT team didn't like me so much because got in trouble a few times. I broke into the principal's account. And, a few of the other...
What'd you do in their account?
It was nothing bad. It was just obviously against the rules.
Yeah.
I wasn't malicious or harmful.
Yeah.
Just I think there was a lot of misunderstanding around what I was actually doing. And they just...
You were just trying to have some fun.
Pretty much, like big disconnect. So, it was great to actually get into the industry, get paid to do it.
Yeah.
buy companies and
Yeah.
help them protect their systems and educate their staff on what they need to do to stay safe.
Interesting. So, okay, so fast forward, you're in IT, you're getting paid to basically hack into things so that they can obviously make improvements so that others can't actually hack into them and cause problems and whatnot. In that part of your kind of career, when was the first time you heard the word Bitcoin?
So that would have been, I believe, in 2011. So
Wow.
I was working, obviously, in IT at the time. I heard that there was this thing you could use your computer to make money. That was basically my context of Bitcoin.
Yep.
And I looked into a little bit more, and my friend Cameron and myself, we set up some Bitcoin miners in our house. And
all the way in 2011.
Yep, in the middle of 2011. I actually have some old emails in my Gmail where I said, I've got 56 Bitcoin. They only worth $50. I'm going to probably sell them. So it's quite funny, actually, looking at our communication. Or if I log back into my Coinbase account back then, the big transfers of Bitcoin.
Oh, my God.
But, at that time, I didn't really understand Bitcoin. Didn't really dive deep into it. So it was more around, for me at the time, it was like, how can I build some passive income with a computer system? I thought that was kind of cool. Like ties in my passion for computers, and obviously with crypto or Bitcoin, there's like the cryptography part of it and building secure networks. So it was kind of a good overlap.
Yeah.
After, maybe 6 to 9 months, the cost of electricity exceeded the cost of actually the
running
output of creating the Bitcoin. So at the time, I'm like, okay, well, I didn't really think much about it. So I just sold most of them, sold my mining equipment, made a little bit of money. I thought it was kind of cool. Just went back to my life of, working in the IT industry. And a couple of years later, I think it was 2013, Bitcoin got up to $1,000. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And kind of piqued my interest and dabbled in it a bit more. And
what about it piqued your interest? Was it just the fact that I was just mining this and now it's worth
pretty
thousands?
much. I was mining, it was like $5 and now it's $1,000. I'm like, what's going on here? That's like something's happening.
That's crazy.
And I didn't pay as much attention to it then as I should have. Unfortunately, hindsight's great. But fast forward a little bit more as where I was in my intersection of my career, where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. Yeah. I always knew I had passion to build my own business.
And when was this? What year roughly?
Well, I had wanted to build my own business for a long while, but just being in the position where I could take that leap of, working for someone else for myself. So we officially launched Digital Surge in July 2017, but there was work being done before that.
Correct.
Building out the platform, or the initial version of the platform. So there was at least 18 months worth of work beforehand, but it was done more so on a part-time basis while working full-time. So it was obviously a little slower, being bootstrapped, self-funded, and you know.
And this is back in probably around 2015 that you would have started.
Yeah, 15, probably 16. The idea came around then, and just finding some people to kind of help me out with certain parts of it. And obviously back then only Bitcoin existed, and we would have never really had the foresight to realize that the industry was going to explode like it did.
I don't think anyone did.
So we launched in 2017 in like a beta access. We had at that time there wasn't that much competition, and we had an early amount of a group of people on the platform using it, giving us feedback. So it was more like a invite only for a while, and by the time we actually opened fully to the public, it was kind of like at the end of the first bull run. So we're kind of getting the tail ends of it, and we're going into the bear market. So that was a interesting experience trying to build a business, through the bear market, and then also obviously just the way how fast crypto moves. And we kind of quickly realized that there was a huge demand, that people wanted other cryptocurrencies, more features. and we really need to kind of ramp up what we're doing to actually, stay relevant.
Yeah. Can I just go back a little bit? I'm just curious, what drive your interest in starting your own business and working for yourself? Where did that was that something you've always had, or did it come out of nowhere? Or
I've always been, like you said at the start, highly competitive and quite motivated. So I was working for a company and I stayed there for 7 years, and I started from quite an entry-level position all the way up into a management position. Saw that company and was part of the growth of that company, going from a handful of people to a medium-sized company. But I kind of quickly hit the limit or ceiling of where I could go and what I wanted to do.
Right.
And it was just like through reflection, I realized like if I wanted to be where I hit my goals, I would need to work for myself.
And would you, in that case, would you say that maybe a part of it is just the drive of like wanting a greater challenge?
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, like you seen where you were, it's like, all right, I've gone as far as I can. You just wanted to see how far you could go, really.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's just this drive, this competitiveness in me that I don't know, it's sometimes unhealthy, especially when I'm competing with people that are, if it comes to like physical fitness and they're way fitter than me, I quickly can hit that wall. Yeah. But I'll try and push through it.
Yeah. Love it.
But yeah, it's just, being healthy, really you're only competing with yourself. So that's something that took me a little bit of time to realize.
So definitely understand the drive and competitiveness, and obviously wanting to challenge yourself on a greater level and starting your own company and whatnot. What about Bitcoin / crypto, or maybe if it's specifically Bitcoin, was there anything in particular that interested you of like, this is what I'm going to build a business on?
There was a few things. Through reflection of where I worked before and the struggles of actually building being part of a business, building a like consulting type business, how challenging it is to scale when the primary resource is people. It's very difficult. So I knew that I had specific requirements for a business that I want to start. It needed to be a software-based business. Right. It's like a platform. Yeah. And just with everything else happening, it was just the perfect mix. So I was in IT, in security, Bitcoin was like early, relatively early. There wasn't really that many like providers in Australia, and just like a good intersection of my interest in cryptocurrency. And as I started to learn more about Bitcoin, that kind of opened up that rabbit hole, which I'm sure most of the people that are listening to this podcast, have experienced. You start to read about the fiat system, about money, like where it starts, inflation, and it just like starts to blow your mind of what's happening with that.
Whoa. We've just... Can you fix that? Oh, okay. Sorry. We just had an audio thing on our end, but they can still hear us. So what in the... with the Bitcoin rabbit hole, when did you start going down that rabbit hole, like you were just saying? Was it when you started the business? Was it before the business? Was it during the business?
I would say it was very early in starting the business, or maybe just a little bit before. So I came at it from probably a little bit of a different angle to some people that would have started crypto business. So it was more like I had the passion for building systems, and also around how we can build a secure system. And you did see a lot of things like obviously Mt. Gox being hacked and all these other platforms. I was just always like, how are these businesses like getting so big and successful, and they're just falling over? Like they have like terrible security, like no thought about it at all. And I mean, that was the thing that kept me up at night all the time in the beginning. It's like, it's going to be such a big target because you've basically got money is your asset and it's virtual. So someone can take it. And I know firsthand from, working in the IT industry, like what can happen. So
Can I just...
Sure.
Sorry. I'm just very curious, due to your background in kind of that area of cybersecurity and whatnot, is there a way that you'd be able to help explain kind of the mentality difference between yourself when building what you've built versus someone who doesn't have that same experience? Like when you're talking from the ground up, the way you were thinking and kind of the team that you started building, were there key factors of just like, can you try and, it might be difficult, but give insight of like, how does your mind work in this area of things?
I would say one way to kind of think about it is if you have, if you're an engineer and you work with salespeople, you generally, the salespeople, marketing people, they will sometimes present things in a certain way that there's a bit of a disconnect with the engineers because that's not exactly how things work. And that's kind of the problem. Like there's a lot of noise out there. A lot of people say that they do this and that, but I'm kind of skeptical because, you know, who is actually the people behind it? Is it the marketing team or is it actually people that have the skills, the hard skills and actually knowing what it is? Like I would say the mindset is the hacker mindset. So always thinking about, okay, how would someone actually try and break in? What would be the steps they would need to do? And always just thinking around edge cases and different scenarios. So Joseph, who is our lead dev, he's very similar to me in the way that he thinks in that regard. So, I mean, sometimes it slows us down because, you know, security is it's kind of finding that balance between security and convenience. So you can have the most secure system, but it may not be very convenient, especially if you got to, you know, turn your computer off and disconnect from the internet. So, you know, like kind of like think about security as a layered approach. Like it's just adding layers on top of layers on top of layers. And, you know, through all of those layers, you get a stronger level of protection because, you know, there might be a hole in one of those layers that you don't even know about. So it's a combination of all of them that, you know, really builds that strength.
Right, just adding multiple layers and kind of just...
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the thing is with software, there's always bugs. And, you know, it's evident. I mean, for instance, Microsoft operating systems, they had an exploit that had been available in the wild for something like 8 years. And it wasn't until I think the WikiLeaks exposed it, the NSA hacking tools were there. I'm sure there's lots of exploits and things that aren't publicly disclosed.
Yeah, because from my background experience of being, you know, a co-founder of my own company and stuff like that, and I've been in business. I mean, I was born in a family of business. My dad's side and whatnot are very successful, and that kind of environment has allowed me, kind of, I guess, in a way, of giving me a certain level, a better way of understanding just the reality of like how much of a difference things make based on how you build the foundation of something. And when I first, you know, when I started getting to know you and the way your mind works and stuff, and the fact that, you know, Digital Surge was built from a foundation of kind of this security sense, it gets me wondering of just from like a principle standpoint, and it kind of touches on what you were saying from the marketing versus the engineer. And it's kind of like, well, if someone was the founder of an online, like let's say an exchange, they obviously start on their own with like a small net team, and they're building from the best they can with the foundation. And then usually you build on top of the foundation. And for me, something that I've personally learned in my business journey was, I'll give a quick story, and this kind of relates back to what you're saying. When I started my company with my business partner prior to coming to Digital Surge, one of the things that I learned the hard way was, if you don't have an understanding on something, at least to a certain degree, a pretty substantial certain degree, you can't even tell if the person you're interviewing knows what they're talking about. And I had that experience when it came to the finances of our company and talking to accountants. When I first started, I knew nothing about accounting. And I interviewed accountants, and the first one just sounded amazing. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Sweet. The guy ruined us, like made our tax bill way higher than what it was meant to be. And I got so annoyed, and then, went to another accountant, talked to them. The second one sounded better than the first one. I said, yep, surely, this is it. All our problems are solved. That person stuffed us over as well. We lost a lot of money. Then I kind of took a step back and went like, okay, this is not working. So what I did was I just invested like months learning about accounting, everything from bookkeeping to, company structures, legal structures, trust, this, tax, how to reduce tax, this, that, blah, 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 whole bunch of things. Then I went on a process of diligently, I remember I emailed, our business was on the Gold Coast at the time. I emailed about 40 accountants on the Gold Coast and Brisbane with a list of about 20 questions. And I clarified at the top, do not respond to me unless you reply in detail to the below questions. And out of the 40 odd that I sent it to, only about 3 responded in detail. And then I interviewed the 3, and I was able to measure that like that person knows what they're talking about. I wasn't an expert in accounting, but I knew a substantial amount, enough to recognize whether that person knows what they're talking about. The reason why I bring this up is something that I don't think many people, because they don't necessarily have that understanding from a business concept. I don't think people realize how important it is of that principle. And I bring that back to, if you're someone, like the most important thing for a cryptocurrency exchange is literally security. Like you said, it's the whole business is based on how well is your security. That's literally it, because all the features can be amazing. All the add-ons can be amazing. You can have a huge selection of coins, but I think customers forget the reality. The most important thing is actually security. And that's something that gave me a lot of confidence when I was looking for the next part of my life, journey in business and whatnot. And when I got interviewed by yourself and the other co-founder, Dan, I realized these guys were a bit different. And in terms of just your background, because I looked you up and saw that your security background, this and that, I was like, that's pretty interesting. And it just knowing the things that I just shared about the accounting thing, I said, that's pretty unique, because there's not many founders, if any, to be honest, in the exchange industry that had a legitimate, real-life background experience in cybersecurity. And so my question, bringing all that up, is with that kind of background of building those things up, well, I don't even know if this is a question, but it's like when I see the way you operate, having that understanding of like every dev that you hire, every person that touches the code base, I feel like it's going through your lens of security. Whereas in the beginning stages of most of these companies, they didn't have the privilege of having that. And sure, now they're much bigger and they can probably hire the right people. But regardless of how much money you have, unless the person doing the hiring knows what security is, you have a chance of being fooled, of hiring someone who doesn't actually know it as well as they sound like they know it. So I think that's one of the amazing things and an advantage that you have with your background. And I like what you said with, one of the reasons I started is not just that, crypto was interesting and Bitcoin was interesting and whatnot and et cetera, but you said everything lined up. You said I had the security, I had the IT, and it was a SaaS-based business, a software-based business that could scale. I guess what all this, what I'm saying, have you ever thought of it from that sense when you look at other competitors and just wonder, like...
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the early days, especially when you see these news of crypto platforms being hacked, it did bother me. And, what I've seen some of the other platforms that have grown very fast, they've had very strong marketing. So, they've managed to, get their user base very large very quickly. Some have done very well, and like you said, they've now got the resources to build the team around them.
Yeah.
It's I just felt with crypto business, especially if you're holding custody of customer assets, security needs to be like paramount. Yeah. And generally the process with startups is run very lean, run the MVP, get the minimum out what you can, and like it's always about focusing on the customer and delivering all the features that they want. And obviously you need to do that to be competitive in the market. But at least for us, we, as a team of engineers, we focused a lot more heavily on the product and building out the security of it. So we have a very strong foundation, and now we have a great marketing team. But I've seen other ones that are founded by marketing teams, so they're really good at saying what they need to say, but it's like, is it actually what they're saying it is?
And I know you on a personal level, but for those who don't, my interpretation of you when I talk to you and what I get to see behind the scenes at Digital Surge, you come off to me as someone who really cares about customers' asset protection. Like I've seen the way you've responded to customers, and the long nights that you've put in because one customer made a mistake on their end, and you went above and beyond to try and help them and fix things. And it could be anything from sending something to a wrong address to other issues or whatnot. But can you share a bit what it means of like the customer assets? Like, is there something like, do you see it of like how it would feel if you lost things, or like how do you see customer assets, and why is it so important for you that their assets are protected outside of like the business falls apart?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty strong driver.
Yeah.
The last 5 years of hard work, and obviously in the early days of not getting paid, working very long hours. So, that's the reality of starting a business if you're bootstrapped.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and where I came from before, we were very heavily focused on the customer. It was B2B, but, I feel that customer service is something that all businesses can do very well, but a lot of them don't. So we have always really try to stay in touch with what the customer wants and keep our finger on the pulse. And, I feel like that's just been part of my like upbringing, like in all of the jobs I've worked at. It's always been a lot of interaction with customers and always trying to go above and beyond to meet and exceed the customer's expectations. So, and, with cryptocurrency in general and Bitcoin, a lot of people are, skeptical. They're wary, especially if they're just coming into it. Like, who do they trust? Is this a scam? I mean, there's a lot of noise we have to kind of fight against. Like, there's cryptocurrency projects that go under. Yep. I mean, we saw a few weeks ago the whole issue of Terra Luna. I mean, that's an $80 billion project just wiped out. I mean, that shakes confidence in people. And, we've been fighting these things from the beginning. Like, at the start, banks not wanting to deal with us. So there's definitely been very good progression over the years. But, it's been kind of fought like an uphill battle from the beginning. So, going above and beyond to really like look out for the customers. And, obviously part of that is keeping their assets safe. I mean, the great thing with crypto is, you can be your own custodian of it. So when people always ask me this question, should I keep my crypto on the exchange or not? And I say to them, at the end of the day, it's your choice. And you just need to weigh up the risks versus the benefit. It's like, you have some cash in your wallet. What do you feel comfortable keeping in your wallet? Like, are you going to keep your life savings in your wallet? You may not. Or like when it comes to crypto platforms, so you can obviously buy a hardware wallet, store it on there. But you need to keep that hardware wallet safe. You need to make sure you back up the seed phrase. You need to test the recovery process, make sure it all works. Like, it might be more secure, but what happens if you lose it, or there's a flood, or there's a fire, or actually, funny story. In the early days, I bought 2 Trezors, and I had one on my key ring, and I had my keys in the door, and my dog jumped up and bit it and destroyed it.
Wow.
which was pretty funny actually. Like, my dog actually ate my Trezor.
Is there anything on it?
It was in the right at the beginning, no, and I had 2 of them, and I had like obviously one was a clone of the other, and I tested the process. But
See?
that's what I mean.
That right there. See, what I have to point this out to the audience.
That was just for myself, though.
I know, but I love the fact that you don't even think it's not normal. Like, you had a backup for your own personal assets. It's like, I have a Trezor. I don't have a backup. Like, there's a reason I'm not in the security team. I don't think I've actually ever met someone who has their crypto on cold storage and has backups. Whereas it's like, for you, it's just second nature. I love that was just like, yeah, my dog ate it, but like I already had a backup. Like it's just second nature.
Yeah.
The way that's kind of, I just think that's hilarious. Okay, so at what point when building Digital Surge were you like, oh, like this is going to work? Like, when did that happen?
Well, I always knew that it would work. It's just a matter of persistence, right? It's finding I would say that in the beginning we were, we had some unique challenges that we had to deal with. Obviously, being bootstrapped with limited resources meant that we could only move at a certain pace.
Yep.
And we didn't seek outside funding in the beginning. So, we could only do what we could do.
Yeah.
And, a lot of stress dealing with banks, closing your accounts for no reason. You're planning to have a nice weekend to try and relax, and then on Friday afternoon you get a call saying we're closing your bank account now. Like, not even any notice.
No
but
reason.
Literally, we're just closing it now.
Why?
Just because, you're a crypto business, we don't like you.
Wow. Crazy.
So, yeah, lots of issues with, dealing with banks closing your accounts. So that's quite stressful.
Was there a particular moment? Like, I know, what you're saying. You knew it was going to work. Maybe I should rephrase it in the sense of, at what point were you like, finally, like, the ball is rolling now? Like, because obviously you put years of hard work and it's like small little progress, little
for sure.
edging.
I mean, I'd say over the last 12 to 18 months, we've seen really strong growth.
Yeah.
From like exponential growth from the previous years. So
basically the last bull run kind of.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we've grown, our team's significantly grown. We're in a big office now in the city. And we're currently hiring 7 more people. So it's, exciting.
It is. Yeah. Nice. You've been doing this now for what, 5 years? More than 5 years.
I mean, Digital Surge
6-7
was registered in 2017. So we're having our 5-year birthday anniversary official.
Yeah.
5 years. But beforehand, obviously, I was doing stuff to get the MVP out to market.
So it's been 6-7 years then in total, technically. What's getting you out of bed still?
There's quite a few things. I mean, I would say I'm very fortunate to have a great team. And it's a big contrast from where I've worked before. I mean, being in this industry, it's so new still, and there's not really that many businesses doing exactly what we're doing. So we found it actually really good to get good talent. So, I mean, working with really smart people that are really passionate and enthusiastic about what we're doing, it's day and night. And like that's one of my big drivers, working with like people that really love what they're doing. And what I love about crypto is it's just like moving so fast. Like, NFTs weren't even a thing really that long ago. Like, what's the next big thing that's going to happen? So, the personal satisfaction of, building out a great team, building out a great product, and obviously all of the support we've got from our customers, like, that's very humbling and rewarding, seeing the positive feedback and, talking to customers, seeing them use the product that, obviously you spend so much time and energy, building.
Just actually, that reminds me, like, what does that feel like? That, like, you've put your blood, sweat, and tears in this thing for a long time, and countless hours, years of no pay, pushing it through. What does it feel like? Of how many customers are using it now?
It's very rewarding. Like, I think just at times you just need to take a step back, pause, breathe, and actually reflect on where you've come from.
Yeah.
It's easy to get kind of caught up, and I guess being motivated and driven, it's easy just to keep going. What's the next step? What's the next step? Like, and obviously I have a team that's quite competitive, so we're always kind of like pushing each other to how can we improve ourselves? Pretty much.
We're like, you got people showing up in the office at 1 a.m. You got like,
yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, you should go home. Like, don't burn yourself out. I'm like, oh no. It's like, I'm fine. It's like, it's 10 o'clock on Friday night.
Yeah, it's great, and I think a large testament of that is I think, like you said, I think you've paved a really great way, and there's nothing better than setting a great example, and as driven as you are, it attracts other driven people, and as passionate you are caring about customers, it attracts customer service members that really care about our customers. And my gosh, I bet you could talk about them. I mean, we have customers. I mean, there's one of our amazing customer service staff, team members, Johnny, right? Like, Johnny will stay on a phone for an hour with one customer, convincing them to please not believe the email that you got from a stranger saying, if you send me 1 Bitcoin, I'll send you 2. He'll, unfortunately, the older generation or whatnot, they just don't get it. And the amount of times where I see Johnny doing everything in his power, convincing them, running them through things and this and that, and please don't do it, going above and beyond. And this guy's been doing this, for almost 9 months or a year, every day, ruthlessly caring about our customers. I've never seen anything like it. And it's like, I can only imagine in other businesses, they're like, God, this is costing us more money than we're making. It's like, Johnny, please put the phone down. But here it's like everyone in the customer service team is like that. And I just think you can't build a team like that unless the people who started the company are like that. And I know Dan as well, your co-founder, Dan is the same. He goes over the top of just making sure customers are not falling for traps all the time, out of our way. Even if it costs us business, you guys will put in the work to prevent as much as you can with things going on.
For sure. It's challenging, to say the least. We obviously want to protect our customers as much as we can. And, if a customer has a bad experience because they got scammed, then it sheds a bad light or puts a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to crypto. And, that's a potential person that is not going to, look at crypto again.
Yeah.
And that's just because of a bad experience that they have had interacting with. That doesn't necessarily mean that they would have had, that they'll continue to have bad experiences, but that just, puts up another wall, and that may just mean they're not going to come back in. So, we all want to see crypto become mainstream, and it's like we're seeing that happen now. There's obviously a subset of people in the crypto industry that, that don't really like the traditional legacy financial system. So, I think seeing what's happening with Bitcoin, in countries like El Salvador and whatnot being legal tender, and what's happening just generally in the world with inflation and money printing. It'll be very interesting to see where crypto ends up and how it plays a role in this bigger picture. But at least from my perspective, we want it to be accepted mainstream, and it's been quite interesting journeying, seeing the likes of some of the big banks flat out refuse us, and now they're saying that they're going to get into this industry. So there's that what's that quote from Gandhi about they join you, or sorry, that they ignore you, then they look at you, then they join you, whatever it is. I just find that quite interesting, because it seems like that's happening.
Yeah, it's crazy. They reject you one day and then they love you the next. It's like my past relationships. I have to ask, briefly, what does the next 5 years for Digital Surge look like from your viewpoint?
Well, it's going to be a very exciting 5 years. What's going to happen with crypto? That's that's anyone can kind of make it a speculation. I'd like to see that we would have another bull run or two, see some all-time highs in price, and I feel like that's quite realistic. The interesting thing with like what's happening with NFTs, the Metaverse, how that's going to transform the world. Apple talking about the eyewear that they're making in the operating system. So I would say like from where Digital Surge will be and how we'll be part of that journey. There's a lot of unknown still. So, for us, it's about building a really strong team, being able to like jump on opportunities as they arise, and building out a really, really good product for our customers, and just listening to what they want and, being the best that we can for them. So that would potentially look like, us being in other countries, having team that runs around like 24/7. I mean, right now we have people in different parts of the world, so we almost have 24/7 with our development cycle, but extending that to customer support and our customer base. So, I mean, obviously expanding to other countries, there's challenges with that, especially dealing with banks and regulation. So we've been pretty fortunate in Australia that it's relatively progressive compared to other parts of the world.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it has been pretty good. That's I think what we could probably go for hours and hours, but I think most likely what the viewers would love is opportunity to ask some questions directly to Josh, and they're just coming in now. And then also, just as a side note, we are going to give away a bit of crypto deposited in Digital Surge accounts to 3 lucky winners, and Josh is going to pick them at random towards the end of the stream. I was meant to say that at the beginning. Anyway, I will just ask, so Scott Dolbell asks, Josh, what is your opinion on having to report gains to the tax office? And do you think they will police it in the long term?
Well, I mean, the reason Australia is such a good country is, and like we have great infrastructure, roads, relatively good health system. I mean, obviously you could open a can of worms with this, but if you've been to other countries, like third world countries, you can see the contrast of how good it is here.
For sure.
And that doesn't come from nowhere.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we got to pay tax. So that's the reality of life. I mean, when I see how much we pay our accountants and how much we pay the government, it makes me cry a little bit inside. But it's just that's the reality of life. So I don't think there's any way of avoiding it. So I mean, I'm sure people try and they might get away with it, but do you want to be looking over your shoulder, and what's the price that you have for doing that, and is it really worth it?
That's a really great answer. I love it. Is there any other questions coming through? So there's more questions coming up. Maybe I'll just... Okay, here we go. From BMX Bandit. So... So just how many Bitcoins do you have, Josh?
I can't disclose that.
Yeah, undisclosed amount. That's security 101. Why would you make yourself a target? On that note, actually, just... do you have like some quick, easy tips to like improve your security?
Yeah, I mean,
for crypto,
for sure. So number one, make sure you enable 2-factor authentication. Like that's number one.
Number one, guys. Number one.
2, good password hygiene. So what I mean by that is don't reuse passwords across multiple platforms. Use something like a password manager to get passwords randomly generated and unique.
Why should they use a password generator rather than just randomly coming up with a random password?
The human mind isn't very good at remembering complex things or like complex numbers and passwords. So, and just the way things are, you might have 30 different services you use. You might have Netflix, you might have your Gmail, you might have Digital Surge account, your bank, whatever. So, you want a unique password for each platform. And if you're going to try and remember all of those passwords, you're probably not going to do a very good job of it. Or you're going to be lazy and use the same password or just change a number at the end.
Yeah.
which is what people do, right? And then hackers know this.
That's exactly what I do.
So you need to use password manager, Nadim.
I do at work, just not. Actually, since I started working here, I did download password manager on my personal laptop as well.
Good.
Starting to transition everything over.
So I'll tell you something that can happen, right? So say you use the same password across multiple platforms.
Yep.
And maybe one of the platforms you use, maybe it's like your sporting community group or some forum for cars that you're in or whatever. It's something that there's not a very good security around that system. So their system gets compromised, your email address is there, and then they also have your password. The password may be encrypted, but it may be encrypted in a way that can be unencrypted. Right. And you see these things called password dumps. And so what they do is they then try and use that email address and that password on other services. So they may get into, say, your digital search account if you use the same password on something else. So that's brings me back to my first step, having two-factor.
Yep.
So password gets compromised, you got two-factor.
Yeah. And just to clarify, so basically what you're saying is if someone was a hacker, they're not going to try and hack into the most difficult platform, being digital search, because there's probably no chance of really getting in. However, if you use the same combination on digital search as you do on another website that has like zero security, they'll hack the zero security one to just get the same combination to try it
pretty
on
much.
digital
Yeah,
search.
I mean that's one way. So I mean when someone is trying to attack a system, they're looking at ways they can pivot.
Right.
So you always kind of like look for the low-hanging fruit, the easy ways in, and then you use that as like a stepping stone to kind of get to the next step. So by doing those two things, you keep your account quite secure. And then the third thing that you can also consider is we have an option under the profile for Enable Cryptosense. So you can turn that on or off. And now if you're not sending crypto to third-party wallets regularly, you might want to consider turning it off. Because if for some reason your account did get compromised, maybe, I don't know, your phone got stolen or your, you got tricked into someone like over the phone trying to get you to do something, or you got a virus on your computer, whatever. There could be many number of reasons someone potentially got into your account. By having that turned off, then if attacker has access to your account, they can't really do anything. I mean, they just want the crypto, right? So what can they do? They can trade it. Well, that's not going to be ideal, but there's no real benefit from them to do that.
They can't get it out.
That's right.
Yeah.
So for the people that are unaware, with the Enable Cryptosense, if you have it turned off, you can deposit AED, trade. You can sell your crypto and you can withdraw your AED, but you can only withdraw it back to the same bank you deposit from. So so that's like a pretty tight loop.
Yep.
And then if you want Enable Cryptosense, that's when you need to submit more information, and the team might call you to go, hey, just ask some more things, because if there's some suspicious activity in your account, it looks like someone else is using your account, we want to just speak to you to make sure that everything's all okay.
Love it. We'll do probably one or two more questions. Someone's name, Crypto Doggy Inuman, lol.
Where do I think digital search will be in 10 years? Wow. So we're now doubling the 5 to 10 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
This is, getting out there quite a bit.
Are we on spaceships?
Who knows? I mean, if I think about 10 years ago where we were with the internet and computers in general, where we've gone now, I mean, are we going to be on Mars? Who knows?
Elon, shout out.
Well, I'd like to see the Metaverse would be pretty realistic by then. So, and how digital search fits into that, we could be in the Metaverse as well. You could be buying NFTs and crypto from us. And, I see like where finance is in general, investing, opportunities. Like we have built our platform to be kind of that bridge, to be easy to provide that access. So, as things change and the industry moves, we'll, look at through that lens and see if those things make sense to add to our platform for our customers.
Love it. I will finish it up on Josh picking the 3 winners. I'm just going to give you my phone. We're going to go on the live stream so you can see everyone who is currently... There's a lot of people watching right now.
All right.
Scroll through all those comments and pick 3 names. Each winner is
Right.
going to win $50.
Doff.
That's it? Doff? That's his name?
Yep. DOFF. It looks
Doff, please contact the live chat support on Digital Surge. We will put $50 into your account.
like Stephen Roberts
Stephen Roberts.
and Sam Vella.
Who? Sam?
Sam Vella?
Sam Vella. You all 3 have won $50 each. You have to have a Digital Surge verified account. Reach out to us on live chat. The customer support will
There's one more question in the comments. Can I answer it?
go for it. I mean,
So,
it's your company.
from Stephen, he wrote, would you recommend using a VPN? So, yes and no. Depends. So, if you're in your home network, you don't necessarily need a VPN. So, VPN will encrypt your traffic from where you are to the VPN server. And then from the VPN server, it will go out to where you're communicating with. So if you're in a public space, public Wi-Fi, cafe, yes, use a VPN because it keeps your traffic encrypted. There's open Wi-Fi networks, the data isn't encrypted. But in saying that, if you're accessing a website like your bank or Digital Surge, we use HTTPS, so you see like the padlock. So that communication between your browser and our site is encrypted, but it's like between you and the Wi-Fi network, it's not. So bad people can do things. So using VPN there is a smart idea. I mean, if you're at home using a VPN just to connect to some of your sites, it can sometimes trip up their security systems and cause captures and other things.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it's
the main thing with a VPN, right, is you're encrypting your traffic from your computer to the VPN server. So obviously, if you want to try and obfuscate your traffic from your internet service provider, then you could do that. But I mean, I don't know if that's really
bit overkill, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, the thing is, like, obviously, bad people will use VPNs as well. So those IPs are normally flagged pretty high. So you might start getting more friction with security systems.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Nadim.
Thanks,
Thanks everyone
it's been a privilege.
Joining us on the live stream.
Yeah.
It was great to do this.
And just before we finish it up, if you're wondering about these beautiful coins, we have the new Ethereum Black version coin in the Digital Surge shop, link down below, along with the original Bitcoin. These are premium coins, shipping right from this office.
So, Nadim, is that bull for sale?
People have been asking if there's bulls for sale. This particular one on this desk is Josh's, but I reckon if someone offers like a substantial amount, we can probably make it happen.
I think we need to get some made, Nadim.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see what the comments say, and we'll maybe get a Digital Surge custom version that we can offer everyone. That sounds great. Thank you, Josh. It's
Thanks.
been awesome, and that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.